Okay.
Okay, so we can start, I guess. Let me introduce you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our audience, wherever you are in the world. I'm Stephanie. I am the social media coordinator for IATEFL YLTSIG. And of course, I'd like to welcome you if you're just joining in to the 2020 YLTSIG annual web conference. The YLTSIG committee would like to thank our 2020 web conference sponsor, which is StudyCat. Without the support of Paul Granger and the StudyCat team, of course, this global event would not have been possible. So thank you once again. To the audience, you can sign up for a free StudyCat trial account with instant access to award-winning games and activities that will allow you to engage your young learners of English, and the link is studycat.com/schools. So I'm delighted to introduce our next talk by Lucy Bailey. Lucy works as an English teacher at the British Council in Egypt, having previously taught in different countries such as UK, Spain, and Italy. Before teaching English, Lucy also worked for seniors in the British arts and cultural sector, developing community participation and learning programs for a range of museums and arts organizations. Her passion is developing creativity in the classroom, utilizing her background in drama, movement, and the visual arts. So during Lucy's talk, we recommend watching in speaker view. And if you have any questions, please use our Q&A box, type your questions in there, and then Lucy will answer them after her talk. So over to you, Lucy.
Amazing.
And you can now share your screen.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see that, everyone. So my name's Lucy. I've been an English teacher for 2 years, but I think I've been teaching drama for about 15 years. So this talk is like an amalgamation of those two experiences, and we're going to look at using drama in the primary classroom. Can you all see me okay? I just want to check that you can see me, because I will be sort of moving around a little bit. So let me know. And we're going to talk about kind of what is drama, why it's useful in an EFL context. I'm going to give you some kind of tips and tricks that I guess I've kind of learned along the way that are kind of useful. And then hopefully I will give you some practical activities that you can go away and use in the classroom. You can see me. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, great. So it's going to be a little bit of a sprint through, I'm afraid, but we're going to start with one of my favorite drama practitioners, and this is Jacques Chirac. And he was a French actor, and he worked a lot with students in kind of like experimental movement. And he said this about some of the work that they were doing. We often work on food words since they already belong to the body, especially in French. All these words are set in motion by the students, including those who do not speak French. Curiously, they soon understand and speak our language very well, since they focus on the dynamics of the word. This suggests a tremendous opportunity for language learning. So this is someone that wasn't particularly interested in teaching language, but he realized through his work, through movement, students could really understand language and remember it. So what is drama? There's, thousands of different descriptions, but the word drama comes from the Greek meaning action or play. And the English novelist George Eliot said, acting is nothing more or less than playing. The idea is to humanize life. So this real sense of kind of understanding and interpreting the world. Now, when it comes to using drama in like an EFL context, it changes slightly. And I was reading an article using drama in the EFL classroom by I'm going to say this wrong, I'm really sorry, Le Angeliana Wati. who quoted a few people. They quoted Bolton, who said, drama is not really a piece of literature for reading. It is the literature that walks and talks before our eyes, which I really like as a description. They also quoted Vere, who talked about it being communication between people. But then they went on to say, drama is essentially an act of communicating meaning. And I might add to that probably understanding and communicating meaning as well. So there are tons of drama techniques we can use. We don't have to all of them. I kind of wanted to highlight some of the main ones that are useful. I'm sure also many of you are using some of these techniques in the classroom anyway. So we have mime and actions, role play, scripts, improvisation. Improvisation is where you create acting or theatre in the moment, in the now. So it isn't planned. So for example, you might set up a scene with some students and you say, okay, you're in a car and you're going to go on a journey and you're the mum, the dad and the kids. And then they act it out and they don't know what they're going to say. They just do it spontaneously as it happens. We have devised work. Devised work is where the students generate and create something themselves. So it might come from improvisation, but they've generally practiced it, they've thought about it, they've reflected on it, they've changed it. And then usually they perform it. We've got drama games, forum theatre, which I can't talk about today, but I've included because it's awesome. And it was created by Augusto Boal, who was a Brazilian theatre maker. And he used it to change laws in Brazil. And it's a form of theatre where you have the actors perform, and then the audience can kind of clap, stop the scene, stand up, step in and change the action. And it's really nice to use with students. We have freeze frames and tableau. Mantle of the Expert, which was created by Dorothy Heathcote, and it's very similar to contextualized narrative. And in fact, I think contextualized narrative probably came from Mantle of the Expert. So kind of creating a scenario in which the students take on a role and then they have to solve a problem. We have storytelling and we have puppets and masks. Okay, so why use drama in the FL classroom? Well, William Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. And what do we mean? We are acting all of the time. When we go to work, we are acting. When we go on a date, we're acting. When we meet people, I'm acting right now. We're improvising all of the time. And so I believe that drama is a really good tool that we can use with students to develop their ability to kind of communicate and interact with other people. So there was a publication by the International Bureau of Education called How Children Learn, and it kind of suggested these like 12 like processes that kind of ensure that learning is as successful as possible for students. So I won't talk through all of them, but I do believe that drama can cover them all. So for example, social participation, we've kind of briefly like touched on that, learning to interact and communicate with other people. Drama can give us meaningful activities, so we can kind of play out real life scenarios before they actually happen. It's a safe space to almost try them before we then step out into the real world and do it for real. Which also applies to kind of being strategic. And in fact, I have a personal story, and I remember it's probably like 25 years ago, my mum told me that when I was at school, I had a teacher who said she's so shy that she'll never be able to do anything. And then when I was a teenager, and I was incredibly shy, but as a teenager, I was like, I kind of knew I needed to get over it. And I saw this like local play of Alice in Wonderland, and I remember it being the most amazing thing I'd seen. in like some little village hall. And so I started acting. And through that, I kind of began to see that actually we all acted so much of the time, and that there were kind of strategies and techniques that I could kind of take and apply to real life. I also think it's really good for things like individual differences, this whole idea of empathy, putting yourselves in someone else's shoes and being able to understand their perspective. So, what else can drama do in the classroom? It encourages play, it's communicative, it helps contextualize the language. Hopefully it's fun, it's memorable, it encourages fluency, it involves verbal and non-verbal communication. I think this is quite important because quite a lot of language, I mean, we focus on obviously the language itself, but we communicate in so many other ways as well, gesture, facial expressions. It encourages movement. It helps us develop emotional intelligence. So what I was just saying about empathy, understanding other people, but also I think being able to safely express our feelings as well. Teamwork and collaboration, speaking and listening, confidence, creativity and imagination, and it can provide opportunities for authentic language use. So, approximately 90% of the oxygen in our body and brain is stale until we take a deep breath. So it's really, really important that we move during the classroom. And I think in the kind of modern world, we become with technology, we become very sort of detached from kind of our bodies. But lack of oxygen leads to us being confused, we can't focus, and then we can't remember. And scientists have also shown that learners do need to move their bodies every 20 to 30 minutes. And also, this is one I find kind of one of the most interesting, is that if students move regularly enough, then they can self-regulate their own behaviour. So actually, it kind of makes classroom management so much easier for us as well. Okay, before I move on to sort of tips and tricks and how we kind of ensure success when delivering drama activities, I'm just going to finish with Picasso, who is one of the most famous artists of the 20th century. And he said, every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up. This whole idea that children are born so inherently creative. And Ken Robinson did a really good lecture about this that's on YouTube, where he talks about children are born like kind of mini geniuses, and the kind of very much the old-fashioned kind of 19th century post-industrial education system kind of educates it out of them. And so I believe that drama is a really good tool for encouraging students to kind of remain creative, think independently as well. So how do we become an FL drama queen? There are a few things we need to do when we set up the activities to ensure that they are successful. And I apologize if I'm going super fast, I'm really conscious of time. So, number one, create a safe and comfortable space. Number two, this for me is so important, and it's encouraging laughter. If we're stressed, we can't learn. And also if we're stressed, particularly something like drama, which involves you being vulnerable, it's really difficult to do. So we want to make sure that people are kind of, the students feel happy, they feel relaxed. Next up, we have the teacher as the supporter. And I think this is really, really important, that the teacher is there to encourage and help facilitate and give very clear instructions, but that the students are kind of working on and developing their work independently in their groups by themselves. Positive teacher reactions. This is so important. And when I say this, I don't necessarily mean going, that's brilliant, that's great, which I think I can be a bit guilty of overusing at times. But when students show you work, kind of being kind of like, wow, okay, so how does the car work? Show me the car. And also facial expressions. I think it's really important to show that you're kind of in a real way, not in kind of we're faking it, but that like we're really interested in what they're showing us. And I think it really encourages them. There's no right or wrong, because it's drama, because it's arts. Right or wrong doesn't exist. So we accept whatever they offer us. If we give them a task and they decide to kind of, I don't know, the car ends up going to the moon or whatever, absolutely, I will accept it. It's fine. Start drama from lesson 1. It's not good to like get to like, and it depends on the structure of the sort of setup of your lessons, but you don't want to get to lesson 10 and then be like, okay, now we're going to do some drama. You want to kind of like drip feed it really, really slowly, which kind of leads into this one, which is like, I think it's best to kind of sprinkle it throughout every lesson. And it's a really good way if you've been learning some vocabulary or some chunks of language, that you then get them up and they're practicing it. There are occasions where you might want to dedicate like a really good chunk of time to doing drama, but it's not necessary most of the time, I don't think. Introduce drama slowly. Don't kind of spring it on them. Right now we're going to act, because not everyone wants to do that, and it can be quite scary, even for people like me who I've been doing drama for ages. Start with movement, not speaking. This is super important. I think because we're teaching language, we want people to be talking straight away. But actually, in order to make the kids feel comfortable, start with movement activities. And that also links back to the kind of encouraging laughter as well. And I'm going to show you some next that you can use. Have students acting all at the same time. So we have, group 1 over here, group 2, group 3, group 4. You give them instructions, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. And they are all acting out, their scene at exactly the same time. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. And then they all stop. And the advantage of this, of course, is that no one's put on the spot. It's not intimidating. Everyone's doing it at the same time. There's lots of noise. They don't have to worry about being embarrassed. Always warm up. Don't kind of dive straight into expecting kids to kind of, I don't know, be improvising in front of people. That's terrifying, even for adults. And remember, not everyone wants to act. I think this is like super important. It's important in terms of the planning, because I think if you plan your activities from a perspective of thinking about the students that maybe will find it harder or won't want to do it, then you'll create activities that everyone wants to join in on, rather than kind of thinking that everyone's going to get up and do it. Embrace the chaos. We all know those moments where like you're doing an activity and like the noise is like rising, and particular drama, the kids get really excited, they're acting, I don't know, there's a spaceship and there's some aliens and whatever it is that's happening. And I kind of feel like embrace those moments, because it's a really safe space in which they are allowed to kind of make a bit of noise, they're allowed to play. And yeah, I would just say kind of go with it and enjoy it. Don't try and control it too much. And always model the activities, not only from a like kind of ETFL perspective, but I think also with drama, it's really good for them to see that you are kind of willing to do the things that you are asking them to do. Okay, right. I want to show you a few games. So the first one is one of my favorite activities ever, and it's the shape game. As you can see here, you put the students into groups and they create shapes using their bodies. So I'll talk you through each activity kind of step by step as to kind of what you need to do. So start by dividing the students into teams. I'd say maximum 4, maybe 5 students in a team, okay? And then the students decide on a team name, okay? And with this game, we give points. So we give points for the team that makes the shape the fastest and the team that creates the best quality shape as well. Always check that your students understand what freeze means, okay? So do you move? No. Do you speak? No. And then you say or shout a shape. So I always start with sort of actual shapes like a circle, a triangle. So they're all in their groups. You shout circle, and then they will start rushing around. They say, okay, circle, circle. And then we go, give them a countdown. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, freeze. Okay, and hopefully they all freeze. And then I go, okay, you get the points for making the shape the fastest. And then I look at them and I go, okay, this group gets the points because it's the best quality shape. And then normally I repeat this for around 8 shapes. So let's have a look at some of the, these are some of the usual shapes that I use. So I tend to start with like a circle, a square and a triangle because they're quite easy ones to kind of ease them into moving as a group as well, working together as a group. And then I normally go into a car, at which point you can see them kind of looking like, what? And so they make a car, and then normally an aeroplane, and then a clock. And then go into a washing machine, and then I take it into like proper scenes. So it'll be a tennis match, a football match, and the beach. So, you know, tennis match, they'll be there frozen. Football match is great. And then an extension to this is that I ask them to bring the shapes to life and move for like 10 seconds. So, for example, the clock is normally the one that I start with. So if they're there as the clock, you say, okay, let's bring the clock to life, bring the clock to life. And then they start moving and they start making the sounds. So that's the shape game. Okay. This one, I believe this has, I think this has got other names, but I call it vocabulary charades. So imagine your students they've already learned some vocabulary beforehand. So we're going to use these as our examples. So these are words that, things that are all orange, things that are orange. Okay, so once again, divide your students into teams. Then one student from each team comes to the front of the class, okay? And the teacher shows them one of the words, okay? You can show them or you can tell them. So for example, last week we did tiger, we did desert as well. Don't be afraid with this of giving them slightly more challenging words as well, because a tiger I think is fairly easy for them to do. The desert, they really had to think about. They were like, how do I do it? Okay, it's hot, it looks like this, sand. So they can make it quite challenging. The students then act and mime the word. Okay, they're not allowed to use sound because the sound makes it so easy. The other students in the teams then have to try and guess the words, and they shout out, okay? They shout out, and you award points to the team that guesses the fastest, And they love this. You can go through this again and again and again. And I would say just make sure that, you know, you're swapping the students that are doing the acting and miming. And once again, if there's students that don't want to do that, absolutely fine. Like, it's no problem at all. Okay, emotions. How are we doing for time? I think we're okay. Tell the students to walk around the space, okay? And I always like to remind them that they can kind of change directions, okay? And they walk in neutral, which is like arms by your side. You've got a fairly kind of blank expression. And I tell them to try not to make eye contact. Next, I tell them to start smiling each other as they walk around the room. So as they walk past, they can smile, smile. And then I say, okay, now you're allowed to greet each other and say hello, 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 hello. And then I tell them to stop. And I say, okay, you're going to greet each other again and say hello, but this time you need to say hello feeling sad. So then they walk around going, hello, hello. And then you say, okay, you're going to walk around and you're going to be excited. So say hello, excited. Hello, hello. And they'd be like, I'm tired, hello, hello. So they practice that, they go around, they're expressing these emotions. I then tell them to stop where they are. I tell them to freeze. And I said, this time, we're going to use our face and our bodies to show an emotion at a level from 1 to 10. So 1 is you feel that emotion a little bit. 10 is really, really emotional. So I'll say, okay, show me happy at a level 10. And a level 10 is like, yeah, I'm so happy. I'm happy. And then I'll say, okay, show me happy at a level 2. Okay. Show me happy at a level 5. And then you keep changing the emotions and changing the emotional levels as well. And students love playing with this, and they really enjoy it as well because they're all doing it at the same time. So in general, they're not worried about doing it. They really enjoy it. Okay, I think we can do this one. Last one, activity 4. So this is freeze frames to action. So it kind of links back to the shape game. Once again, we divide our students into teams. And we tell the students they're going to create a freeze frame. Now, with this activity, it's like creating a story with pictures. So we have a beginning freeze frame, a middle freeze frame, and the end. So last week, I'm teaching space at the moment. So with my students, we did freeze frame number 1 was astronauts preparing to travel into space. So I gave them 1 minute, so they don't have long to think, because you don't want them to overthink it. They have to move fast. Okay, so you're going to create the scene of astronauts preparing to go into space. They have 1 minute, they're moving around. Okay, they've got their bag. Bye. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. I then do as I said before, where I point to a group and they bring that scene to life for 10 seconds. And then I repeat that with each group going around the room. And then I do this same process for the middle freeze frame and the end. So our middle one was the journey, so in the space rocket. And then the final one was arriving on the new planet and they're kind of getting out of the spaceship and looking around. And then I ask them to show me. So show me, freeze frame 1, and they get back into position. I'm like, good. Okay, show me freeze frame 2. And they show me, great. And then show me freeze frame 3. Brilliant. Okay, 1, good, 2, 3. And then what we want to do from the freeze frames is that they begin to turn it into action. So we can ask students to add a movement between freeze frame 1 and freeze frame 2. So they might be, I don't know what they're being in position, they're like this, and then they just move and they turn into their space rocket. So we see a movement. And then we ask the students to add a movement between freeze frame 2 and freeze frame 3. And then we do it again, and I say, okay, we're going to run all of them through. So freeze frame 1, we move into freeze frame 2, and we move into freeze frame 3, and we bring the scenes to life. And then they can practice them a few times. And if they're happy and confident, they can then show the scenes to the class. But they don't have to. I think that's a really important thing to say. Okay. I knew we were going to skip this one very quickly. Challenging scenarios that you might have. Students won't stand up. It's absolutely fine. Most of these activities you can adapt to having the students sat in chairs. And then I would say is just keep going, and you try something in one lesson, and then the next lesson you try something again, and gradually they will start to want to do it. And I think also, particularly primary, when they watch other students joining in, they kind of want to do it. They always want to join in when they see the others doing it. Students are shy or embarrassed. I think this is where the teachers giving positive praise and helping modelling is really, really important. I would accept whatever they have to offer you at whatever level. I think you can play with grouping, so you put more confident students with shyer students. And I think it's also a case of like over time, the students become more and more confident. The students not wanting to participate. This very rarely happens, particularly with primary. And I think it's what I just said about do activities where everyone is participating, and they do eventually then want to join in because they see the others doing it. And then the last one, students don't want to show the work to the class, is absolutely fine. It doesn't matter. Ideally, it would be lovely for them to do that, but it's not essential. Drama is not about having to perform, particularly in this context. It's almost about them being able to play and explore and experiment. So I think my time is pretty much up. So I need to just check, are there any questions? I'm sorry that was so fast.
Hi, Lucy. That was great. Thank you. So I think there are a couple of questions, but
okay.
I don't know if you've kind of tackled them already. Perhaps the one of distance learning, since everyone or many people are in this situation now, how can these techniques be adapted to distance learning?
How can they be adapted? I've used a lot of these online actually. So it's all about the big difference is really that they end up having to do a lot of it themselves. So stuff like the shapes, they can do that. You can have them all standing up and they're showing you the shapes. You can also put them into the breakout rooms and use the breakout rooms if you want them to prepare any drama work. But I tend to, the way I change it, I guess, is you have to just remember when they're not in the room with you and it's on a computer, that they are by themselves. So you can give them the same instructions, but they're kind of generally acting with themselves. I can see. I would love to share the slides. I don't know how to. I don't know how to. Can we share the slides? Is that
one of the slides? Okay.
I'm just having a look at any of the others. Which one? What about the use of L1? It does happen. I don't worry about it too much. I think sometimes it can be useful for them. I just kind of tackle that when I'm going around and I'm kind of monitoring and I kind of talk to them about it. But it does happen. I guess one of the criticisms I read about using drama is the kind of like error correction and not being able to correct errors, or definitely hot error correction. And I think with drama, it's not worrying about that so much. It's more about fluency and getting them feel comfortable speaking.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's it. Thanks a lot, Lucy.
Okay.
And now we'll just